Thank you， 谢谢。
Thank you very much. So it all begins with molten glass. The glass at the end of the iron is at 2,120 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about 1,156 degrees Celsius.
好，现在从任务里面取的是流体没有颜色的热玻璃，热达光是2100度，摄氏1160度。
Now the glass in the furnace is clear. Lynn didn't want to make a clear piece, so he's rolling through a crushed-colored glass we call frit. That'll stick to the surface of the gather, creating a very thin layer of color.
好，我们没有颜色的玻璃是选的这种深蓝色的，这今天来上这个做这个成品。
Now Lynn can roll through any given color as many times as he likes. The more times he does, the more dense that color will become. We'll create that very thin layer. He's begin the process here fairly quick of adding the air bubble.
好，你看，轻轻一吹，拇指一按，热力压入无可可去，从那个气泡来了。
So blowing hard on the back of the pipe, trapping some air in there with his thumb. That trapped air is heated by this discolored end of the pipe, and as that air expands, it has nowhere to go but out into that gather of glass.
好，里面已经形成像高尔夫球那么大的气泡了，只是明显看不出来因为颜色的关系。
Sitting down using a wooden tool, Lynn will shape, center, and cool the glass on the end of the iron. And he needs to get it rigid and down to about 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit so we can gather more clear glass out of our furnace.
这样的玻璃量只能做个小酒杯或者是装饰品，它需要提取更多的玻璃和今天的成品。
Now compressed air will speed that cooling process, and once we're rigid enough that we can shove it below the surface of the glass, wind our way out, not collapse the bubble, Lynn will wind up that about 2.5, 3 times as much clear glass.
令它的快速降温，确保高冷够硬，否则进去的熔炉会被挤破或挤扁。
Now the glass in the furnace sits there in a large round ceramic tub. You shove the glass below the surface, wind your way out, and because of the increased surface area, you get a whole lot more glass.
好，因为我们刚才已经有个气泡是体积很大，所以一转会卷出2倍量的玻璃。
So if we were to take and break this thus when we got all done, we'd find a thin layer of clear on the inside, an extremely thin layer of color in the middle, and a much thicker layer of clear on the outside.
好，我们现在用更大的木勺是浸泡在水里的，利用水蒸气打滑玻璃。
And the use of clear in combination and color in combination together is driven by cost. The clear glass here is about $1 to $1.50 a pound. Some of these colors can run $80 and $90 a pound.
哦，那我们谈到我们的这个原料，像无色玻璃大概1块钱美金英镑，而我们彩色玻璃甚至也是80、100块英镑都有可能这么贵。
Using a series of wooden tools, Lynn is able to again shape, center, and cool the glass with a large block. And here he's going to create a taper that will allow him to drop this into a mold called an optic mold.
另先用这个板子呢，正在把这个塑形出来，以便于待会他用地上的光模子去造型。
Now, whenever the tools are dipped in water, that allows the glass to ride in a very thin layer of steam. The glass and the water combine to create that steam, and the glass actually rides in that thin layer of steam.
凝聚到我们不管是木板或木勺，都是浸泡在水里，利用水蒸气来打滑玻璃降温。
So we have a second oven on stage. It's called a reheat chamber or secondary chamber. This burns at about 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's there just so Lynn can add temperature back to the process.
右边的炉子呢，纯粹是加温回火，又没有任何玻璃，高达2200度，迅速回温。
Now you can actually see in the reheat chamber complements of a pretty high-tech piece of glass called fused silica. That's what protects that lens from melting from the 2,000 degree environment.
好，那现在他进入光模子造型看。
Not going aggressively. When can you get that glass to take on the entire temperature?
好，现在他用光模子来造型。
那么高的这个还能有光下去吗？
Sorry about that battery issue or it's a technical issue. Dropping that into the mold, he can blow aggressively and get the glass to take on the shape of whatever mold he wants to use.
好，现在用光模子产生的线条，如果说是不用过度加温，它是保留到成品。
So the process of blowing glass up in fuel involves a series of short, repetitive steps. You'll see Lynn will inflate this a little at a time, and at the rate that he can control the inflated glass.
它每一吹吹气呢，轻轻上吹，蜡烛会吹第二气球那么近，这样它好控制玻璃的发展。
So Lin started to create a volume in the vessel. He's keeping an eye on the bottom to make sure we maintain substantial thickness. Then he's going to take a set of steel tools and start to create a constriction we call a jack line or a neckline.
它一面吹呢，同时您看注意到没有，在那个靠钢管那边就是它一个环状，是待会接个转的地方，也是口瓶子的口。
Now combining the heat and the gravity, it's going to take what was a round shape, start to make it into an elongated, taller vase-style shape.
你看它把这玻璃往下垂，是利用地心引力把玻璃自然拉长。
That's a combination of heat and gravity together, and you can see that Lin always tests it first to make sure how hot the glass is before you spin completely around.
他的经验丰富，他常常去测试看看这个玻璃是够软，才去拉长。
好厉害啊！
So again, completing that length, you see how very rapidly that glass gets nice and long off the end of the iron.
你看那个师傅的经验好丰富，他甩的这个技术好，长那么长，否则会甩得出去的。
So reaching up with those steel tools, Lin will start to create the constriction at the top of the iron that will allow us to break this vessel free a little bit later in the process.
现在夹出的环状很重要，是待会我们切锅走上的地方，所有的瓶子都要有一个口部，这边就是口部了。
Now the steel tools are actually coated in a wax, and that prevents them from sticking to the vessel, as anything that gets hot enough will eventually start to stick to hot glass.
最好看这个热玻璃啊，在钢夹上没有沾点，是因为用了蜜蜡。
哦，用蜜蜡，这属于。变完了。
Okay, now we're going to go back to our reheating unit to bring the temperature up to continue making the glass. 那我们现在要回去加温炉呢，继续加温呢，继续制作。While Ling is focusing on the button for reshaping and design, he must ensure the entire glass above 900 Fahrenheit, otherwise the glass could crack anytime. 那我们Ling呢，师傅现在对温度的控制很重要。如果的温度低于华氏900度啦，那玻璃随时会破碎。And glass making, glass blowing requires teamwork, and we have Carl is prepared with a wooden board to help Lin to flatten the bottom so that our glass can stand well. 那我们在做玻璃的制作过程呢，这个团队工作很重要，所以现在 Carl 拿一块板子呢，要帮助我们的 Lin 来把底打平。好 now the button is ready, and Lin decided to use the graphite paddle to flatten the bottom, and then Lin's not asking Carl to prepare for the transfer. 现在龙底打平了 ，Carl 呢要协助 Lin 准备要做180度的转换。What Carl is doing now is called punty or point. That means we're going to have the glass stick to the bottom of Lin's glass and to do 100-degree transfer to start making the ring or the mouth of the glass. 现在呢，我们的底做好了 ，Carl 呢取了一点钢管要做转换，英文叫 punty 啊，我们现在希望它成功。And we're going to transfer now. Oh, very successful transfer. How about let's give applause. 好，现在是非常成功的转换。I'll do my best in English, okay, in Chinese. Okay. Now, when we cut the glass, the temperature is around 1,000 degrees to be so-called cold for the glass making. And now Lin needs to stay in that reheating unit for quite a while to bring the temperature up to between 17 and 1800 degrees to be soft enough to reshape. However, in the meantime, Lynn must be very careful in temperature management because if any part of the glass falls below 900 Fahrenheit, the glass could crack, as we said. 现在呢，我们刚切下的地方是大概是华氏1000度，对于玻璃制作来讲是很冷的时候。那现在Lynn呢要到这个加温炉里面回升到华氏1800度，够柔软再继续制作。Lynn doesn't have any way to measure the temperature reaching the 1800 Fahrenheit as he expected. In his experience, he knows by the color of the glass and the texture in terms of softness to know the temperature reaches his target to start making, continue making. 那我们Lynn呢，师傅呢并没有任何温度计，他怎么知道温度达到了华氏1800度继续制作呢？完全是靠他的经验，那凭靠他的肉眼看颜色和这个玻璃的柔软性。Lynn has glass making for 30 years, so he knows what he's doing, and he makes the process seem to be very easy, but in fact, it requires at least 60 years in practice, and which is equivalent to like 12,000 hours practice. So it's not that not easy as we thought. And 那我们现在呢，Lynn的经验很丰富啊，他大概有30年的经验。那他做起来很轻巧，其实做不也相当不简单，起码要6年，相当于12000个小时的制作才能上手。Okay, now you know this is really nice in terms of the shape, huh? So we don't know what Lynn is going to lead us into. What spectacular, you know, the result. So we're going to wait and see, huh? 那我们现在其实还不晓得Lynn现在首席设计师，我们不知道他会带我们进入怎么样的一个结果，我们非常的期待，看下期还有什么惊喜。Okay, now, wow, look at that. So Lynn just use temperature to really use some centrifugal force to fast spinning to make a big trumpet shape. And then he would drop the glass down using the lowering down the glass so that it becomes a very nice natural shape like drabs. 那我们刚才呢，快速旋转呢，就是产生这种像大喇叭形，然后往下一垂呢，产生花瓣，非常漂亮。Okay, now we have the sharp. Just the sharp place we need to put into our annealing oven for 10 hours, gradually dropping the temperature from 1000 degrees down to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and we won't see this beautiful glass until tomorrow. Okay, 那我们现在这个玻璃要到明天才看到10个小时降温。Excellent job, Lynn Barr.